Thank you all, first of all, for the privilege of being here in front of all of you and getting to speak on such wonderful topics on such a tremendous stage. As an alumni of this school, I'm incredibly honored and profoundly blessed to even be able to be doing this. So I am a spoken word poet by the fact that I was one here at UCI, and I continued to do it for years after I graduated. So it is with that that I bring each and every one of you two very, very intimate poems that I wrote during a very difficult time of my life. And the context of the poems is such that I'd be remiss in not bringing it up somehow because it dovetails into the really grand topic of our entire evening, the domino effect. In my case, my topic is mental illness, or rather, the lack of a discourse about mental illness in this country and, quite frankly, globally. So what I wanted to do was something a little bit different. I wanted to give you guys an example, human example of what the domino effect looks like with regards to mental illness. So I'd like to give you an example, myself. My name is Cesar Yuriar. I was a UCI alumni class of 2013. Before that, I graduated from high school with highest honors, came into UCI in 2010, graduated from UCI in 3 years with 2 bachelor's degrees because the moment I got here, the first thing I immediately decided to do was to take 20 units my first quarter. When I did that, the counseling department here actually, a specific counselor, will remain unnamed, actually looked upon me, laughed profoundly, and when the punchline never came, said, "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You will fail immediately." Not only did I come back with a 3.8 after that first quarter, I did it again the next quarter, again the next quarter, set the bar at 22 my second year, and at 24 units my third year. So I didn't take her very seriously. When I got to law school, it was a lot of the very same thing. People telling me what I could and could not do, and yet somehow I managed to graduate with a Juris Doctorate from University of San Diego Law at the age of 24, at the oldest, one of the youngest in my graduating class. So in essence, this is Domino A. This is Cesar Yuriar, or how society knows him to be. And quite likely, they know him to be someone who'd probably be mentally stable, because for all intents and purposes, first-generation Latino in the United States, he sounds like the American dream. This is the sound of Domino A falling, shattering into a million pieces, because he wants to make sure that no other domino in his place ever has to know the terror of falling. Let me try introducing myself again. Hello everyone, my name is Cesar Yuriar, and I happen to be an individual who is struggling with a mental illness in the United States. I was diagnosed officially 3 years ago, but quite frankly, I've had symptoms for about 9 years. Had my first psychotic episode here at UCIrvine at the end of my first quarter because it turns out 20 units is kind of a lot. Had my second one my third year of law school so bad that I was essentially pulled from school and incarcerated in a mental institution for 3 weeks. Came out and everyone told me, just give up, just call it a day. You don't have to prove anything to anybody, so why are you still here? And after these experiences, experience after experience after experience, feeling segregated from everybody around me and believing that I was, for all intents and purposes, a monster among society, I started to look elsewhere and realized that I wasn't alone. It's just that we don't know how to utilize our own voices. This is the sound of Domino A shattering so that all of you know what that voice sounds like. To every individual in the sound of my voice that would ever consider themselves to be neurodivergent, that is to say, to have neurochemistry that is divergent from what the standard, typical operational neurochemistry would be in society, or what society classifies as mentally ill, or diseased, or sick, or different, or bizarre, or whatever other adjective they use to define us. We are simply different. We just work a little differently. And it's with that that I want all of you to hear me when I say, if you struggle from something like this, whatever it may be, whatever the level of diagnosis, resist, fight. Do not go gently into that good night rage against the dying of the light, because quite frankly, we are the light. To each and every individual within the sound of my voice who would consider themselves neurotypical, as in someone who is not mentally ill, if you're not listening to my words, all I ask is that you pay attention to those around you, because little do you know that those with a mental illness exist around you every second of every day. We are your coworkers. We sit next to you on public transit. We are your friends. We are your neighbors. God forbid you should ever wake up one day to the same nightmare that I have, that one day we will also be your children, your future, all of our futures. And it is with this that I would like to share with all of you 2 poems that I wrote in the fall of 2015 when I was incarcerated in a mental institution in San Diego, California for 3 weeks against my will and pretty much with no sense of what the hell was happening to me. I pray to God none of you ever have to experience this like I did. Modern medicine. No, oops, sorry. That's the second one. That's the closer. First impressions of mental illness. The night I was diagnosed as mentally ill, all I did was cry. Yeah, I cried. I bawled like a newborn child being struck for the first time of many times, like a bat torn from hell without its consent. I pounded my fists against the white walls of the padded room they stuck me in because they knew not what to do with me, over and over again until the blood and sinew filled the foundations of the prison that couldn't even hold me. All I could process was, I can't have children anymore. They've taken that right from me. Because how could I justify bearing fruit when all I could hear were the voices of my forefathers, the violent echoes of indecent men trying to live in a decent time, echoing bombastically in my skull? If the tree has poisoned roots, level the damn tree. Burn the roots, salt the earth, and sell the orchard. Pray to God nobody knows what you've done. This is how we used to handle our heritage. I was a cherry blossom, mourning the stagnation of my fruit, my seedlings, just waiting for someone to have the common courtesy to yell timber and push. The night I was classified as a type 1 manic depressive, my emotions became a nightmare I didn't know I couldn't wake up from. Suddenly, my tendency to be overly inclined towards sadness and black love poetry looked a lot like raging bipolar depression, a suicidal record on an infinite loop, that kicking musical note that I don't know, I can't stop humming, even if it's going to kill me. Mania. Mania. M-A-N-I-A. If you take nothing else from this, remember this word, as it happens to be the most terrifying rush of numbness anyone in my position could ever know. My brothers and sisters, how we have suffered the feeling of being aflame, robbed, raging at both ends of a candle, ready to decimate the very forest lined with all of our family trees. All the while the wax keeping us fed is dwindling, hemorrhaging in a losing battle. Do you know what it's like? Could any of you know what it's like? To be terrified of your own heartbeat to the degree that a nurse with a crash cart rushes to you to try and put a live current through your chest while you are awake, still breathing and making eye contact with him because they don't know what to do with you. 195 beats per minute, 197, 203, 206, 215 beats per minute. If this junkie shot up with something, why isn't he dead yet, and what do we do with him? I was 22 the night they told me that. The night that a team of white-coated doctors resembling a bouquet of petunias that are clustered so damn tightly I couldn't breathe around me, and they called me psychotic. Said that I bore psychotic symptoms and that I showed signs of the early onset of schizophrenia. Like any English major, I turned to a dictionary. Psychosis, adjective. With, of, relating to, marked by, or afflicted by. Psychosis, a serious mental illness characterized by defective or lost contact with reality, often with hallucinations or auditory or visual hallucinations. You see things, you hear things. We are a little different. Humoring those observing me, I concede, okay, I am psychotic. Reality and I have never truly seen eye to eye. I am too damn susceptible to falling in love like my life actually depends on it, treating my heart like a shooting star, letting it rocket through space and hoping that one day it gets earmarked by that one wish I've been waiting for, spitting poetry like it will cure cancer, like it might cure cancer. Living my life in an unexpectedly optimistic fashion, riding the edge of an invisible cliff without minding where that hole starts. I dream like it's the only thing I will ever be good at. I bare my soul over and over and over to those that are sick, to those that are healthy, and everything in between, like their lives depend on it, because most days it does. Yet, yes, I am psychotic. No. That doesn't necessarily mean I want to hurt any of you. Mama raised a pacifist. And deep down, I am still the same 5-year-old boy trying to reason what it means to be a good man. And really, should that not count more than the opinions of white coats, prescription pads, and pens at the ready, just praying for a witch hunt? That's number one. The second is modern medicine. At proper dosages, lithium, yes, that pink sea salt that they pull from the sea and stick inside of our brains, is little more than a battering ram, skull splintering like so much wood underneath steel, persecution of sunlight flooding the very darknesses we once held dear. The first thing they told me was that my darkness is an illness. They did not hesitate to look me in the eyes when they said this. I so heavily empathize with the iron coating my windows, frayed and rusted as if left smoldering in a fire that neither of us knew how to put the flame out of. We are both elements of nature, left charring to pieces with no one looking after us. They say my fire is also an illness. Shh. Listen. Here they come again. Their little feet stamping across linoleum like gunshots as they march along, pitter-patter, 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 emptying the magazine in my direction as they figure out what to do with me next. The incessant drumming of children leading into a cavalcade of men that are going off to war to fight for something they don't even believe in anymore. 3 knocks. I don't humor them. The Xanax and the Ambien that they have been suffocating me with for days has numbed my sense of humor just a bit. So much so that even my chuckles have the same grating sound as razor blades striking steel without regard. 3 more knocks on the door. I start whistling, casually at first, then with the harmonics of a robin. Does the jailer realize, I wonder, that the caged bird sings bloody murder whenever he walks by? 3 more knocks, I smile, turn, even throw a wink their way just for fun. How your glasses shine so very bright like stars that I haven't seen in weeks. As I look at you through the little wormhole of a window in the solid, reinforced, 3-foot-inch steel blast door you think is going to keep you safe from me. Knocks again. They acknowledge me. Still seems so manic, doesn't he? Like he doesn't even really want to be here, huh? Tends towards isolation, very depressed, always talking to himself. What the hell has he got on his mind? You know, maybe a nice little adjustment to his medication would make him more docile. I retort, the slightest chuckle, but not too loudly see. There is a hill of pills delicately lining my belly with such a quiet disorder that any shift would be ordered chaos and a shroud of furious restraint. Of course. The empty white coats, looking upon me, the breathing chemistry set inside of a prison, turning my agony over in their hands so clinically as they figure out what to pull out of me next. And yet they tell me, I am the illness. No hesitation as they tell me, I am the illness. They hold up an institution that says, we are the illness. We did not ask for your institutions. We did not ask for your labels, and we sure as hell did not ask for your criticism. We have only ever asked that you acknowledge that we, though different from you, bleed the same blood and breathe the same air. And in the same way that we wish you would validate our need to exist, we wish that you would acknowledge the fact that what you consider to be sensitive, compassionate treatment from our side of the fence looks a lot like a damn hate crime that nobody's talking about. Thank you.